Hi! Today we're going to keep reading Maroo of the Winter Caves, and we're going to read chapter 5. If you haven't followed us, if it's the first time you're following us, there is also one video which is about chapter 4, and there is another video which is chapter 2 and 3. So I advise you watch the other videos. Anyways, are you ready? First of all, grab paper, pencil, and let's start. If you're not ready, click pause, go grab everything. If you want to grab colored pencils, everything, because I'm going to ask you questions and I would like you to draw if you feel like it, okay? So let's do it. Chapter 4, remember Maroo, she had just found the dog and she wanted to keep the dog, and her father said yes, the wild dog. Well, let's keep going with the story. Now the name of chapter 5 is A New Friend. Maroo did not want to move the puppy, so she fetched stones from under the rock overhang and built a little shelter around him to keep off the wind, and laid branches around it. In the morning, when she and Otak crawled eagerly out of the shelter to see him, the branches had blown away. But the puppy was evidently still alive. They could hear him whining and scratching at the lid. Old Mother was tending the fire. "Your new friend is hungry," she remarked. "I'll fetch meat," said Maroo. "No, I want to," Otak said. "It's a girl's job," Maroo said back. You fed him last night. He's my dog too." They were still quarreling as they went to fetch the leftover bones from the last of the deer meat. Maroo gave in and said sulkily, "I'll get clean water for him, but tomorrow I shall feed him." When she came back from the stream, the puppy was eating and Otak was squatting nearby, watching him. So now I would like you to pause here and try to draw this scene. What do you see there? Can you picture that? So pause and draw this, all right? Old Mother's fire was burning well. She left it and came to squat beside them. "He should have a name," Maroo said. "What shall we call him?" "You will have to untie him soon," Old Mother warned. "In a few days we may leave this camp. You will have enough to carry without him. He must be untied, and he may not follow us." "How soon will we leave?" Maroo asked anxiously. How soon do you think they will leave? I want you to pause and answer how soon you think they will leave. The old man shrugged. "Such things we never planned. They depended on the availability of food and the mood of the people." Maroo wondered how long it would take to tame the puppy. He still snarled savagely whenever she put out a hand. Can you imagine him? She realized that Old Mother thought he might not follow when they left and did not want the children to become too fond of him. Don't name him yet," Old Mother said. "Once you give him a name, his spirit will be in your keeping. Wait until we leave. Then untie him, and if he follows us, we name him." The camp was a good one, and they stayed more days than Maroo could count, living on fish, hares, and the green food they found in the woods. Full summer came. The bitter winds subsided. There were no more snow showers, and the last patches of snow melted away. There were flowers to pick on the hillsides. Small pink azaleas and fat cushions of moss with starry white blossoms. Patches of bright yellow lichen appeared on the bare rocks, and in the damp valley bottom there was moss of deep green color furred with tiny golden fronds. Nobody worked hard in this season. Vorka made the children pipes and whistles out of bones, engraving pictures of them of deer's heads, plants, and fish. Arag made a new drum. Around the rim of it, he tied clusters of little bones and clunked together as he beat the rhythm. They danced all one afternoon to celebrate the making of the new drum. That was the day they saw a wisp of smoke rising from behind a large rock far out on the plain. So now I would like you to write down, what do you think this smoke was? Why do you think there was a smoke far away behind a large rock? Pause and write. Arek pointed to the smoke. "Sovi's fire," he said. They knew that it must be Sovi's group. Kiriatek and his sons had gone straight up into the hills, and their fire would not be visible. The next day, Arag and Vorka walked across the plain to Sovi's camp, and the two groups of men went hunting together and brought back a deer. Can you imagine how big this deer was? Have you eaten deer meat? If you have, I would like you to write down what it tasted like. If you haven't, try to imagine. Do you think it's gonna taste good? Pause and answer. During this time, Otak and Maroo gradually made friends with the dog. One day, he took meat from Otak's hand. He still batted away if they tried to pet him, but they saw that his fear was going. They began taking him into the shelter to sleep, but they still tied him to one of the supports. Then, one night Maroo brought him in, but did not tie him up. He fell asleep, but in the morning his place was empty. Uh-oh, do you think he ran away? Maroo crawled out, her heart fluttering. Had she given him his freedom too soon? What do you think? Do you think she would find him? There at the hearth place was Old Mother, and a few yards away, wary but hopeful, sat the dog. When he saw Maroo, he got up and his tail wagged. What happens when a dog has the tail wagging? Do you think he's happy? No? He said, excited? Afraid? What do you think? Maroo fetched bones from the deer, and he trotted eagerly toward her. Now I would like you to pause and draw this picture of Maroo and the dog with his tail wagging. Draw. What do you think she was thinking? They stayed in the gorge until the last night of the old moon. So this group stayed too, in their camp on the plain. The two groups had decided to combine and go on together towards the seashore. The women had suggested this. With the bigger group, there would be 5 hunters and another woman, Avni, to help Tikek when the time came for the new baby to be born. On the last evening, the children ran about excitedly. Otak pretended to be a deer, and the girls chased him with imaginary spears. The puppy barked and wagged his tail and jumped up at the girls. The adults sat talking around the fire. No one was busy. There was nothing to pack. The sun was setting behind the gorge, and the enormous sky was streaked pink and gold. Far away on the plain, water flashed, and a slight, persistent dark movement betrayed the presence of vast herds of deer. A rag began to sing. It was a song about summer and the animals that could be hunted. The children stopped playing and gathered around. Everyone joined in the choruses and clapped the rhythm. Can you imagine what it was like? Can you imagine the rhythm of the songs that they were playing with the drums? The rhythm was complicated, and Maroo had to concentrate to keep it right. When a rag stopped singing, they all clapped on, enjoying the intricacies of the pattern they were making. Maroo saw that Otak was dreaming as usual and clapping without thinking. Tikek had seen it too. She caught her daughter's eye and they grinned at each other. Then Tikek introduced a new rhythm into the clapping. Maroo picked it up at once, but Otak stumbled, lost it, and stopped. Maroo and Tikek collapsed, laughing. Nimai joined in the laughter without knowing why. The night could come quickly. The clapping game broke up, and they began crawling into the hut to sleep. The sky was a deep blue now, full of stars, so this smoke was no longer visible. Maroo crawled into her place in the hut between Otak and Nimai, wrapping herself closely with the furs. Outside, she heard the wind prowling around the shelter, lifting the edges of the skin covering and pushing at the frame. She shivered with fear more than cold and snuggled against Nimai's warm little body. The dog, lying by her feet, whimpered softly as she moved. He seemed tame now, but would he leave the gorge with them? She lay awake for some time, listening to the soft breathing of the sleeping family and thinking anxiously about the dog. In the morning, she woke and saw Old Mother silhouetted in the doorway, arranging her hair. It was a comforting sight. Nearly every morning in her life, she had watched Old Mother plait her hair and coil the plaits into a cone shape on top of her head, fixing it with 3 bone pins, one engraved with a pattern of deer heads, one with rippling lines like water, and Maroo's favorite, the one carved in the round to make the stretched out body of a running deer. Now I would like you to think about this, and I would like you to draw the face of Old Mother. What do you think she looks like? The pins were old and worn smooth and yellow with use. They had been carved by Old Mother's grandfather and passed down through the family for years. Old Mother saw Maroo watching her and smiled, sensing the girl's anxiety. "It is time to go," she said gently. They rolled up the furs and untied the skins from the frame of the shelter. The bundles were shared out. When they left the gorge, the frail shelter stood open to the wind. Soon it would collapse. All that would mark the place would be a few bones and a shared patch where the fire had been. The dog stood barking by the empty hearth place. This was the moment for which Maroo had been holding herself in readiness. She was trembling as she set off along the trail and turned to whistle to the dog. The dog stiffened at the sound, and his ears pricked up. Then, without hesitating, he bounded along the trail to join her. How exciting! Maroo exclaimed joyfully, "He's coming, Old Mother! He's coming!" The children fussed over the dog, and he licked their hands and wagged his tail as he ran alongside them. Old Mother said, "Now you must name him." Maroo and Otak had already thought of a name. What do you think the name will be? We will call him Revo, Maroo said. The name meant friend. Old Mother approved. It's a good name. They turned toward the east. Spread out across the plain, a brown tide of reindeer was moving endlessly in the same direction. And to finish, I would like you to draw this part. Them living and this. Spread across the plain, a brown tide of reindeer moving endlessly in the same direction. Imagine and try to draw this.